In this video, we'll go over how to turn a photo like this into one like this. So let's get started. First, as usual, let's take a look at our image. This is how it looks for us. Okay, good. Let's get started with the preparatory work. I'll show you right away how to do this quickly. We'll use this plugin here. It's my own development. I've mentioned it a million times already. Just click. Create. Well, here you can choose different styles, but for this photo, the smooth one will work. I think it's perfect. Click Create, and you'll need to wait a little bit. I'll also show you right away how you can do this not through the plugin, but via a bot in Telegram. Select our file, open the bot in Telegram. All the links will be in the description. In the settings, you can immediately choose the format. For example, let's select PSD right away. Let's go ahead and select several styles at once so we can clearly see the distinct differences. I'll carefully choose 3 styles at once. That's it, you can close it. Next, just drag the file into the bot. Please note that you should attach the file as a file because some people send it as a photo, and as a result, Telegram compresses everything and you end up with an unclear result. So make sure to send it as a file. The bot supports PSD, TIFF, JPEG, and PNG. You can even send a Dropbox link, a Google Drive link, or a Yandex Disk link. It will download everything itself, process it, and send you the finished result. It's all quite simple. You send it, now everything is uploading. Let's watch. So, in Photoshop, by the way, the result has already arrived, while here the processing is still ongoing. Let's immediately take a look at the before and after. Let's save the file right away, just in case. Alright, I'll minimize the plugin. Let's take a regular brush, just to see what the difference is. You can see that everything has been smoothed out. All the unnecessary clutter has been perfectly removed. At the same time, the text has been preserved. Overall, there aren't really any flaws. So this is our basic preparatory work. So that we don't have to smooth everything out by hand ourselves, we use either a plugin or a bot. We've simply saved, roughly speaking, an hour of time, yes, for a photo like this. I'll attach all the files via a link under the video so you can download them, check out the layers, take a look, and explore. So that's basically it. Okay, good. Our preparatory work is basically done. We need to fix a few mistakes. So I'll link the layer, create merged layers on top, and remove a few flaws that I don't like. We have a tool for that. Remove tool. I don't remember in which version of Photoshop was it added. I think it was added about 2 years ago. Let's see what minor flaws we still have left. I don't really like the image. This part right here can be removed, and here as well. But overall, just fixing some small things, and it will already look pretty good. This is exactly how we select the things we don't like. And we press enter. In my case, I press enter. In your case, if, for example, this checkbox is enabled, it will remove it automatically. So as soon as you select it, it gets removed right away. I have it turned off. It's easier for me to use enter because sometimes it freezes. Well, actually, it doesn't work quite correctly. Anyway, I just like it better this way. So what else should we fix here? Well, just some little things here and there. So here we seem to have a reflection, right? But basically, we can remove this element. It'll create a much more aesthetically pleasing result visually if we do. Well, obviously we have some reflections here, but for the overall visual composition, these things are not really necessary for the final look. You need to consider it depending on the requirements of your shot and your clients, so to speak. I usually remove any general elements that might be a bit distracting. Let's put it that way, distracting attention. For example, take this stripe here. It's not necessary to keep it. So, well, overall and generally speaking, for the most part, considering everything, we've successfully removed all sorts of different things and various items. We can still make some adjustments here, but maybe we'll do that a bit later. Press Ctrl+S to save the results. I would work on it a little more. With the mix brush, the mixer brush tool. It's a wonderful tool. I'll show you right away what settings to use. Wet 20, load 20, mix 20, flow is adjusted with the shift key and the number keys on the keyboard. Or you can just enter the values manually. If you just press the number keys, it changes the wet value. Here the logic is exactly the same as with any other tool. For example, if you take a regular brush and press the number keys, like 1, 10, 6, 62, press 6 twice for 66. If you hold shift and press the number keys at the same time, the flow value will automatically change accordingly. You can see that now the flow changes in the mixer brush as well. It's the same story. If you just press the number keys, the wet value changes, so you need to keep a close eye on that, since here it is currently set to 20. Usually the most common thing we do is adjust the flow setting. I typically work with flow values from 30 to 100. So for now, let's go ahead and set it to 30, or even 50. We will see how it goes as we work. Also, make sure to disable this button right here. Press F5 to open up the brush settings menu. For the spacing, I usually use 12. Spacing is basically the repeating pattern of the brush. If you adjust this slider, you will see exactly how the brush works. So, if I start moving it over the image, it will kind of look like this. With these strange dots, you can set it to 1, but it all depends on your specific needs. That's too high a value. So my universal setting is 12. You can disable all the other checkboxes, but it really depends on you. For example, some retouchers use pen pressure as well. That's just more convenient for them. It's really a matter of habit. There are no universal settings. Even all these values are just very approximate. You need to go with what you like best. Everyone has their own method, so that's how it is. So I have everything disabled here. The main thing here is spacing, and flow is set to 0%. That's it. You can collapse this, and now you can use the mixer brush. Okay, the sample layers checkbox is disabled, so we'll be working only on this layer. You can use a graphics tablet or just a mouse. It's simple. Now I'll show you how to do it with a mouse. There are some things here that I don't like. First of all, you can see a bit of a posterization effect here. Some artifacts like that remain. I would correct them. Of course, the best way is to convert the project to 16-bit from the start, then it will work a bit better. But if you have a weak computer, then you can work in 8-bit mode, yes. Alright, I won't drag this out. Let me show you how to bring out all the highlights. Like this, for example. How is this done? You just hold down shift. Press and hold shift, then drag. You don't have to release shift. So it's just that simple. Basically, you kind of... The brush draws a line when you hold down shift. So you can move it like this, but often that's not always convenient, and in many situations, honestly, it's just not necessary. So from the side of the highlight, you click, hold shift, and drag it back. At this very moment, I'm not even releasing my finger from the shift key. This way, you can nicely adjust a wide variety of different highlights. So it's the same thing here. Let's blur it a little. Go ahead and stretch it out a little bit. Actually, the ideal choice for product shots like this is to cut out all the logos onto a separate layer and do these kinds of strokes. Of course, we can try to cut it out. Let's even perhaps try to select it and cut it out onto a separate layer. I'll show right away how this is done. If, of course, it works out. As you can see, because in this case the logo's color is almost exactly the same as the jar itself, so it's actually really quite difficult to do. Let's try to handle the process automatically. This is the initial result we are seeing. Well, basically, if you fine-tune these specific parameters and areas, it might actually turn out quite impressive and professional. Let's try an experimental method to see how it goes. First, you will need to highlight this specific area carefully. Duplicate it, well, Ctrl-J, you switch to the active layer and press Ctrl-J, and this area gets cut out for us. Move it to a new layer and convert it to a smart object by right-clicking and selecting Convert to Smart Object. That's it. Now this layer is a smart object. Next, double-click on this layer. This file will open up in a separate document due to the fact that it is a smart object. And now we'll do a very interesting little trick. Go ahead and switch over to the Object Selection tool, or the Magic Wand, or the Quick Selection tool. Here the choice is not fundamentally important. Here, set it to Cloud and click Select Subject. Let's see how well Photoshop's neural network can select the text. Will it work or not? Honestly, I don't know myself, but often it works pretty well. And you can see that what we got is much better than the automatic selection. Well, this is also, of course, automatic selection, but I'm talking about the selection we tried earlier. After that, just click on the mask. Press Ctrl+S. Changes happen here automatically. Changes happen here automatically. Here too, press Ctrl+S. Okay, I'll delete this. And now we have the logo essentially on a separate layer. You can immediately make adjustments now. But before that, you need to delete the old one. For this, we will use the patch tool. It's a wonderful tool, as old as life itself. I don't know how many years it's been around, maybe 20, but it still works. Beautiful. You simply carefully select this specific part like this, click and drag it over and hold Shift so it moves in a perfectly straight line. There we go, just keep holding it and drag it into place. Visually check so that the text disappears. Release it. That's it, done. There are some minor inaccuracies here, but that's not a problem, we'll fix that. As usual, press Ctrl+S. Now, I'll carefully select the specialized mix brush tool. And now we can basically affect the entire outer surface of the can itself without affecting the logo at all, which we've already carefully cut out onto a completely separate layer. We can also move it a bit right away so it's more centered or lower or higher, however the client asks. Let's even move it down. Moved it down. You can attach it using a clipping mask or you can leave it unattached. And now we can work on the can itself. By following this method and once again holding down the Shift key, we can effectively smooth out the surface, blur the edges, or remove any imperfections. This ensures that the final result will look polished and professional for our project. I'm just going to tap in different places while holding Shift. Maybe just a little bit here. You can even just blur it out. For example, if the client specifically asks for it, if they suddenly decide they want a much more matte look, just hold on for a second, and let me quickly switch everything over for you. So you can even make the surface of the can go from a very glossy finish to a much more matte look. Again, if that is exactly what the client wants, and that is precisely what they need for their project, I'm just showing how you can do this. Like this. So we duplicated the layer, applied a Gaussian blur, and used masks to go over it. All of this is possible because we cut out the logos. That's why it's often necessary to cut out the logos so we can make adjustments underneath them. Alright, okay, good. So what else? Let me smooth it out a little more. Switching to the mixer brush. And that is exactly how we managed to get it done. Now, let's spend a little bit more time working on the background. Also just using the mixer brush, nothing fancy. Everything smooths out nicely. At the end in post-production, or rather not in post, but as the very last step, we can just add a little bit of noise and basically remove all the flaws where it's obvious that we used the mixer brush. I usually just do all this roughly like this. For example, if the client says that this stripe here shouldn't be visible, you can see it, and I just take the mixer brush and start doing all sorts of blending like this. Or let's say the client asks to remove these things, but here it's easier to remove these lines. I'll tell you, with what? Instead of the remove tool. By the way, you can also try using the patch tool. You just stretch it out and drag it like this. Roughly. Really roughly. So that, well, you can even see the transitions here. We did it roughly, and then you take a regular mixer brush. And you can do it just like this. Blending. Alright, okay, good. Let's see what else we have here. Let's smooth this out a bit here. Just by holding down Shift. I'm specifically showing how to do this without a graphics tablet. If you know how to use a graphics tablet, everything will be much easier. The same goes for all sorts of lines like these. Sometimes there are flaws left, or sometimes they're just a bit uneven. You can use the mixer brush to smooth them out a bit, make them more even. And then, of course, you could also try to carefully cut out this specific logo right here. But I probably won't try that. Let's leave it as is. So, well, basically you could sit here for a long time smoothing all this out. Let's leave it more or less like this. Press Ctrl S. Now we'll work with our background. Let's take a look at the original. Maybe I messed something up somewhere. Looks like here I probably either accidentally with the brush added some kind of highlight. Or maybe I smudged it somehow. Let's correct it a little now. Also notice how I rotate the canvas. The R key, if you press it, whenever you press this specific key, you switch to the rotate tool so you can rotate. It rotates the entire canvas area. Here, our image spins, and to reset it back to normal, simply press Escape, which instantly resets the rotation. But it's most convenient to hold it down, not just press, but hold. So for example, if you currently have the Versatile Mixer brush tool selected, it is an incredibly wonderful tool right here in your hand. Instead of just pressing the R key on your keyboard, you hold it down until the rotation wheel appears on your screen, you rotate the canvas to the specific angle you need, then release the R key once more, and you're instantly right back to the mixer brush. This way, it's very convenient to use. You don't need to press R, then B, then R, then B, or any other tool every time. That is, by holding down any key, this applies not only to rotation, but to all other tools as well. By holding it, you basically call it up temporarily. For example, let's say I press B now. Let's switch to R. I'm holding down B. And now I've temporarily switched to the mix brush. If I release it, I switch back to the remove tool. It's a useful feature, so keep that in mind. Alright, good. Let's work on the background. For photographs exactly like these ones, it is definitely much easier to just draw the background. But first, we need to carefully cut out all these objects. The best way to do this is with the pen tool. That would give better overall quality, but right now, we'll use faster methods, just so we don't make this video too long. So, let's select it now. Cloud. Select subject. Now that we have a selection, for the time being, I'll just create a brand new empty layer and fill it with a solid color, just to see what our mask looks like visually. Well, looking at it overall, I can see that it actually cut out pretty well. Most likely, any flaws will be somewhere at the bottom. Well, actually, yes, it didn't do a very good job at the bottom, but that's perfectly okay. It's really not a big deal at all. So, let's go ahead and apply this mask to this group of layers, meaning to the working ones. As we usually do, simply press Ctrl S to save your progress. Next, we are going to need to create a new gradient. So, that's not the right one. Sorry, hold down the G key and switch, or rather, not hold down, just press the G key to switch to the gradient tool. Before creating the gradient, you need to check which colors are basically being used in the background. I usually do it the same way as always. First of all, I pick the lightest color available. I hold down the Alt key. That is, well, I need to switch over to the brush tool first and then hold down Alt. Okay, I realize I was actually on the mask just now, so I am really sorry about that. Now, I select some layer, press the Alt key again, and carefully pick the lightest color from the palette. Or if it's not light, I just click on the background. It depends on your particular background, since yours might be different. So I take a good look at my current situation, click right here, and then I change it. Here are the specific colors. I press the X key and choose a second, much darker color, or something along those lines. Now I have two distinct colors ready, and I can easily switch back and forth between them. Why exactly did I do this? Well, I did this to make it significantly easier for me to draw a smooth gradient, so now I just switch over to the gradient tool to finish it up. I do it like this. Well, basically, I already have it here. Let's choose Radial. That is so that it looks like a spot, kind of. And we can select the colors we've chosen. So, simply by clicking here, using the eyedropper on this square, we select the first color. Then we select the second color that we have chosen. Let's take a look. Well, there you go, that's it. Our gradient is ready. Let's see what the background looked like before and after, and that's it. Basically, you don't need to smooth or clean up the background. You've drawn it yourself. I want to point out that it's best to do this specifically in 16-bit mode. So if you're currently working in 8-bit mode, make sure to switch over to 16-bit mode. And then go ahead and create this kind of smooth gradient. And in general, it's also a good idea to use some kind of action or add noise just to get rid of the banding or posterization effect. So that there won't be that kind of like banding effect. It's often visible in photographs. So now I'm just going to run an action. which will create a group of layers. I'll definitely attach everything via a link in the description, so you can download it and use it as you like. So now we've got this group of layers created. These are simply individual layers filled with exactly 50% gray and several different types of digital noise. Let's zoom in much closer now and see exactly what it looks like. You can't really see much here, of course. Well, basically there is noise here. Let me put it on top. Maybe you'll be able to see it in the video. So there's this noise, and you can simply merge this noise with our gradient. And back again. Then you can switch the project to 8-bit just so we can work faster. So it doesn't put as much load on the system. So here is exactly what we have got. I would reintroduce a bit of the original background. At the base, right here, you need to reset the colors with the Dem key. Somewhere like this. A bit of shadow, some shading, so it appears. Alright, let's remove a little bit here. Here, of course, the shadow doesn't look very nice at all. Let's go ahead and create a new layer just like this. We'll use the dodge and burn technique to carefully highlight these areas a little bit more. Alright, the object. We've cut it out. Smoothed out the metal and the surface, cleaned everything up. All that's left, basically, is just a few things. Adjust the color, brightness, contrast, add some noise, and work on the volume. Let's probably start as usual with levels. We create an adjustment layer. We link it using a clipping mask, Ctrl-Alt-J. We pull up the highlights. We make sure there aren't any strong blown out areas. Just slightly increase the contrast. Now let's add an S-shaped curve. This is just a regular curves layer, right? Curves? So you just make an S-shaped curve like this. And you simply adjust the opacity. You can clearly observe that we've added contrast to the image. If that's not enough for us, we can also duplicate it a bit more, so we don't have to bother too much. As for color, I won't really change anything here. Maybe I'll tweak it a little bit. The highlight, because I think I made it a bit too strong. Actually, not the highlight, but the reflection. I smoothed it out a bit too much. It became a little crooked. You can try to brighten it up a bit more if, for example, you find that you don't like that it's too dark. Sometimes a client asks for that. Well, obviously, if we brighten up the dark areas, then as a result, we'll lose some contrast. Because contrast is essentially the difference between the light and dark areas. So that's something you need to keep in mind as well. But often you can brighten it up just a little bit, or you can even remove it completely. So again, it all depends on the situation. Let's brighten up our logo a little bit. I just switched to this layer, which is our smart object, and I just pulled it up a bit using levels. Our logo. Alright, there's quite a lot here. You could keep sitting and tweaking it. Let's work on the volume perhaps. I'll show you right away how to create this layer. Press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-N. No, that's not the one we need to press. Ctrl-Alt-Shift-N just creates a regular layer. So Ctrl-Shift-N, press Ctrl-Shift-N, select soft light, and fill it with a neutral color. Now we have this kind of layer. Now you can use the dodge and burn tool. Select the dodge and burn tool. I'll set the midtones to just 30% and work a bit on the volume. As I already mentioned, contrast is basically the difference between, or rather, not the difference, how should I put it correctly? Well, in general, the greater the difference between the light and dark tones, the stronger the contrast. That's why usually to increase the sense of volume, we need to lighten the light areas and darken the dark areas. So here, once again, you can just use the Shift key to highlight this specific spot. For example, you might want to darken right here, or perhaps you can darken this entire area, and then you can highlight over there. You really need to take a moment to look visually at exactly how it appears within the scene. We have lighting, right? So where is the light coming from? So basically, for example, with drops, how does volume work? We darken the dark areas, lighten the light ones, and if we look at the before and after, you can see that contrast has appeared. So basically, it is just the same with any other objects. Now, let's look at before and after, before and after. Well, there's a bit more volume now. Let's add a bit more contrast. You can also add a bit of color to these little droplets. Just create an empty layer, set the blending mode to color. Take this one, some kind of pink color. I'll set the opacity to 100%. You can also add some color to all this coppery stuff. Although, okay, I won't do it at the bottom here. And let's lower the opacity a bit, say to 60, just to make it look more realistic. Naturally, so to speak. Alright, good. Let's increase it a little. So, as usual, for some reason, in my version of Photoshop, it doesn't work properly. Use duration. I don't know, some kind of glitch. Alright, let's not increase anything. Basically, we can leave it like this. I'll just set the contrast layer to normal blending mode. So, let's increase the saturation a bit. Alright, to put it simply, that's everything you need to know. As the final step, I usually incorporate a bit of sharpness and noise if needed. So essentially, we're kind of simulating a real photograph when we add noise. I usually add sharpness using high pass. So right now I've selected all these layers. Pressed Ctrl J, pressed Ctrl E to merge everything into one layer. And then went to filter other high pass. In this case, set it to 2 pixels. Select the linear light mode. Set the opacity. I usually set it to 50%. So we check. Before, after, before, after. So everything has become a bit more crisp. Let's put it that way. I'll add a new mask, link it to the layer, and then carefully remove a small portion from the very bottom. So that most of the effect stays on the jars. Now let's try adding some noise. We'll add noise using the same action that we used to add noise to the background. That's it. We've created this layer. Let's take a look. Before, after, before, after. Well, it added a bit of noise. Basically, that's enough. So guys, that's the lesson. Feel free to use all this information. Download the files, test them out, take a look, experiment. That's pretty much it. Thanks everyone. Goodbye.